Hey guys, I'm a little late again, but the problem actually hasn't started yet. So that's cool. Just started right now, so let's give it a try. I sat down on my computer at like a half second ago. Okay. Uh-oh, cephalopods. Cephalopod math. Okay. Okay. Just make some stuff happen here. What is it? Reading. This is random stuff. Okay. I added a new linter. Okay. So what I need to do is parse this stuff. Maybe the first thing I do is just condense the spaces. What is it? Trim? Look that up. Strip. Okay, that's pretty good. We still got. Oh no, we know. What am I doing? There we go. Okay. No. Okay. Okay, let's see how that does. That looks correct. What am I doing? I am taking out my print statements and getting the real input. Big ol' input. Oh, I'm printing something. Okay, well that's one. Took a second to figure out the parsing, but that's what happens when I use Python. It's written right to left. Column. Most right before. Oh, 431, 323, 623. Okay, that's annoying. Why is this one 8? This one's 4. Most significant digits, top least significant. Okay, that's another parsing problem, really. What I really want to do, go from here to here. Okay. So ops is data. Why is this not clear all the way? Okay. What do I want to say? So I want to figure out how far it is to the next. Okay, it's here. Wow. Okay, so now it should be there. If line not equal to jumps. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I actually want it like that, right? 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13. And 14. Okay, I think that's right. 0, 1, 2, 5, 0, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. Okay. Okay. So we got that. That goes at the bottom. For I in range, line start, line end plus 1. For J data, line in number data. If number data I not equal to space that is right. 4, 4, 31, 6, 23. Okay, that is correct. So if current up equals plus 1, I think that might be it. Yes, that looks correct. Boom, there we go. 2 stars. We've completed day 6. It was very much a parsing problem, which is funny because when I'm using Python, parsing is like one of the hardest parts for me. I also just added this new linter. Use turn A operator. Okay, see, this is some Python syntax type of deal. Val equals 0 if current op equals plus, else val equals 1. Oh, else 1. Oh. Val equals 0 if current op, else 1. Okay. So we could also do that for over here. Val equals val plus current num if current op equals plus, else val times current num. I don't know if that is more or less Pythonic. See if we get the same answer. Same answer. Okay. Okay. Let's format this, John. Format this, John. Looks like it's not mad at this for whatever reason. I felt like this should be able to do this with comprehension, but I couldn't figure it out in the moment. Let's see what they're saying. Okay, let's do a quick walkthrough since we solved it. It's gonna be hard to walk through because honestly most of it is parsing, which is a pain in the butt, and which I probably didn't do very cleanly. But basically, for the first part, the actual problem is not that hard if you ignore the parsing, right? We basically just look at the operator at the bottom, which is either a times or a plus, and we look at the column, so to speak, of numbers above it. And if it's a times operator, we multiply them all together, and if it's a plus operator, we add them all together. So like it's the kind of thing that would be very easy to do on a piece of paper, right? If you were just filling it out yourself. And then you want the grand total, so you just sum up all the answers all together. The problem is the parsing, right? So there's an awkward amount of spaces in between. There's some trailing and some starting and stuff like that. But conveniently, there's always the same number of like items in each row, right? So if you look at the top row, there's 4 separate numbers. If you look at the middle row, there's 4 separate numbers. If you look at the bottom row, there's 4 separate operators. So basically I was thinking, all right, all I really have to do is break them into, their respective parts, and then I can just work on it row by row because I know there's always going to be the same number of columns, and that kind of just makes it easier to parse. Okay, so how did I actually parse this? So first I read the data, I split on a new line, cut off the empty line at the end, basically the same as every other problem we've done so far. Then I started doing my manual parsing. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I'm sure you could do it with regular expression or something else. But since I was just trying to get it done as fast as possible in the moment, what I did was I go through each line one character at a time. And basically I said, I'm going to create a new version of this line. If I have 2 spaces in a row, I'm going to ignore it and only take the first space. Otherwise, I'm going to add whatever it is. So I'm just going through. If it's not a space, I'm going to add it to my newly parsed line. If it's a space and the character immediately before it is not a space, I'm going to add it to my parsed line. Otherwise, I'm ignoring it. And then finally, I did this strip operation, which cuts off the leading and trailing white space, which helps for lines like this where there's a space at the beginning or a space at the end. I just don't have to deal with those. Now I only have to deal with the intermediary spaces. It's actually convenient to have one space still in my data because now I can split my line on that space, and I will now have, everything cleanly separated. So if I print at this point in the program and I bring back in the sample data, that is not huge. You see I've cleanly made things, so I have everything split exactly how I want it, everything grouped together. Everything is an array of length 4, or it's a matrix where every row has 4 items. So that's convenient. They're all strings, so I do have to then convert them into integers for the ones that I want to convert to integers. So I'm basically splitting out the numbers and finally the operations into like 2 separate little things. For the numbers, I'm parsing the integer, bing, bang, boom. Then this part's pretty simple, right? Once you've already parsed it. First, I'm just going column by column over the operations. I'm checking what the operation is, if it's a times or a plus. If it's a times and I'm in column 1, then I'm just going to get the first element of every single one of these numbers and multiply them all together. If it's a plus, then I'm going to get the, whatever first element of all of them and add it together. And one thing to know is that if it's times, you want to start with 1 because 0 multiplied by something is always 0. So you just want to start with 1 if you're making a big multiplication thing. If it's an addition thing, you want to start with 0 because otherwise you're going to be off. But there it is. That's pretty simple. We did it. for part 2, now it's basically a different type of parsing problem, or a variation on the parsing problem. So hopefully this isn't too crazy to explain. So now, instead of sort of parsing left to right, I basically want to parse up and down. So I know I'm going to be doing a lot of like column, line by line in the same column type of thing to make my numbers. Right, so they're saying 4 is the first number, 431 is the second number, 623 is the third number, 175 is this number, right? So my strategy for this, the first thing I focused on was basically figuring out like what's the, for a specific problem, either a multiplication or an addition, either finding the sum or the product, I want to know like what are the specific columns that this problem spans. So the first problem spans 3 columns. Maybe it's easier to show here. How do I do this with my cursor on this? Right, the first problem spans these 3 columns, and then there's an empty column. And the next problem spans these 3 columns. Next problem, these 3. Next problem, these 3. Now I wasn't sure. I actually didn't check if they're all the same length. It's kind of hard to tell here, but I don't think they are. All right, like these are closer together than these ones. So it's just a coincidence in the sample that they're all length 3. So I treated that as like a dynamic thing. I don't know what the length is going to be. I want to figure it out. And the way I figure it out is by looking at the row of operations, right? So I know when I hit any operation of plus or times, that's going to be the start of my section. When I hit my next operation, I know like that's basically the end. And I actually backtrack. If I've hit this one, I backtrack by 1, so I'm behind this operation. And I actually backtrack by 2 because there's an empty column there. I need to have special handling for the last line because there's no empty column. I do go sort of out of bounds when I eventually hit the end. I need to backtrack by 1 instead of 2. But that's sort of how I'm just focusing on getting that range. Like, where is the start of this? Where is the end of this problem? Where is the start of this problem? Where is the end of the problem? So you'll see what I did. I'm basically starting with my line start. I'm trying to figure out where the line end is. So I know my operations at my line start, so I just cache that, save it for a second. To find my line end, I'm going to start from my line start 1 over from my line start. I'm going to keep iterating forward while I'm on an empty space character. So if this is my start, then I'm going to go empty space, empty space, empty space. Okay, I've hit a non-empty space. And then I'm going to backtrack 2, right? Because I was kind of talking about this a second ago. Backtrack 1 non-empty space and backtrack again because there's a whole column of empty spaces. And for the special case of the very last column, I'm only going to backtrack by 1 because there's no empty column there. That's just, that's the end. So I'm making sure to stay within the bounds and not go out of it. Okay, so at this point, I have my line start and my line end to isolate the problem. So now it's actually not that hard to deal with. Now I want to go column by column, 1 character width basically at a time. And I just start at the first row. If I'm in column 0, I'm going to collect all of the things in column 0. If I'm in column 1, I'm just going to go 1 by 1 through each column or through each line and get the value at that column. since he said the most significant digit is at the top and the least significant digit at the bottom, it took me a little while to figure out what he meant by that. But basically that means, right, 4 is here, 431 is here. So if I'm going top to bottom, I start with 4. When I hit 3, I know, oh, I actually need to move 4 up 1 digit to the tens place. When I hit 1, I know, oh, I need to move the whole 43, 4s up to the hundreds place, 3s up to the tens place. So I'm doing a little multiply by 10 every time I get in a new non-empty digit. Multiply by 10 and then add that digit on. Right, so if I start with 4, it's my first digit. Then I do 4 times 10 to move it up, plus my next digit, which is 3. I have 43. My next digit is 1. Then I do 43 times 10. Give me 430 plus 1, 431. So you can kind of see how that's like parsing the number out. And then it's very similar logic to the last time. If it's a addition summing problem, then I sum them up. If it's a multiplication problem, then I multiply them together. When I've gone through all of my range from my line start to my line end, so when I've done that whole problem, each column in that problem, then I have my final value, add it to my total. And when I've fully finished whatever thing I'm at, right, if this is my current sub problem is 3 long, I know I need to go forward 2 to start the next one, because there's 1 empty column, and then bam, there's my starting index. So probably not explained the best, honestly, but we solved the problem. It was very parsing heavy and pretty light on logic, but that's how it happens sometimes. I don't hate it. It's fun to practice, a new language. I'm practicing Python. We got these little ternary operators. That's kind of fun. We got these, list comprehensions. I was trying to think, like, how can I skip this list comprehension or skip this map and instead do a list comprehension, but I couldn't quite figure it out. Maybe I'll take a look at that later. But for now, we're done for the day. Thanks for watching, and we'll give it a